26 people were killed November 5 at the First Baptist Church of Sutherland Springs in Texas. Callie Richmond for The New York Times. The tranquility of a Sunday afternoon in the newsroom was shattered earlier this week with an unconfirmed report of a shooting at a church in Texas just before 1 p.m. Datum INR, and platform that scours Twitter for breaking news, alerted us with a flash, the highest level of importance, regarding a tweet that read, PSA active shooter with 15 ppl down at the Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs down my road, be careful everybody! ! Messenger at Sydney Madison, November 5, 2017. I'm the weekend editor on the Express team, where breaking news is one of our primary missions. The tweet immediately seized our attention, but it proved difficult to confirm it was a Sunday, and government offices were closed. The rural nature of the area made it challenging to find addresses for neighbors, and the police, at the moment, were offering no details. For 8 minutes after the initial alert, there was not another tweet about Sutherland Springs or an active shooter. I started to get restless. Could this be a false alarm? Regardless, we started to cast a wide net. Zach Jock, a senior staff editor, looked at the community on Google Maps. There was not much to see: a couple of churches and gas stations, a Dollar General store. Maggie Astor and Christina Karen, both reporters, started to call the stores, local law enforcement, government officials and hospitals. Ms. Karen also checked public records for residents we could call, but reaching people in this rural community proved difficult. By about 1:15 p.m., a few more tweets had started trickling in, and I tweeted back to as many people as possible, asking them to please call me Ms. Astor. Some news outlets, almost all of them citing social media posts, also reported there were numerous dead and wounded. However, we needed someone in authority, a coroner, a police officer or someone from the sheriff's office, to confirm what happened. Accounts on Twitter were from people discussing the event, but they were not witnesses. The goal was to reach at least one official or one person with first-hand knowledge. Unofficial accounts in breaking news are almost always inaccurate, and social media can amplify the echo chamber of incorrect details. For instance, the early erroneous media reports of the massacre in Newtown, Conn, in 2012, reports that falsely suggested there was a second shooter and an additional victim in Hoboken, NJ, still resonate with me. Meanwhile, I could feel a pit in my gut as the minutes ticked by, and we repeatedly called law enforcement agencies and other officials to no avail. Calls to local residents were also fruitless. Every time we hit a wall, we tried a new tack, and then another. Our goal at the Times is always to first be right, and then be first. Finally, through Twitter, I was able to reach someone close to the scene, Joseph Silva. He agreed to take some pictures of the emergency responders, email them to me, and describe what he saw. At the same time, Ms. Karen reached a local constable who confirmed a shooting had occurred at the First Baptist Church of Sutherland Springs. There were numerous victims, including children, he said. We were at last able to post our first article about 3 p.m. and build on our reporting in several updates. And as time went on, the scale and horror of what happened came into sharper focus. The extent of the tragedy was driven home when I got a call from a parishioner, Sandy Ward. She was among several parishioners I found on a Facebook page for the church had left a message for her hours earlier. My interview with Ms. Ward was extraordinary. Words spoken for about 5 minutes before she told me that 3 of her grandchildren and a daughter-in-law had been shot. Her grandson, 5, was shot 4 times and was in surgery, she said. At the time of our conversation, she was still awaiting word on her other family members. I was struck by the unfailing politeness and consideration she showed by calling me back from a hospital at a time of great personal crisis. I wished her strength and healing. She asked for prayers. Maybe it was my adrenaline starting to ebb, or maybe it was this up-close example of the enormous tragedy that befell a small Texas community, but at the end of the interview, I could feel my voice starting to crack. I got off the phone and took a moment to regain my composure. There was more work to do. I still have not had the heart to look for updates about her relatives. A version of this article appears in print on November 10, 2017, on page A2 of the New York edition with the headline "A First-Hand Account in a Crisis."